Is there an immunity that gets built up in an audience? Say if you did something very similar to that, a trick that was similar, that had sleight of hand, could you do trick after trick after trick after trick after trick like that, and would the audience still be amazed?
I don't think you can do trick after trick after trick any more than you could, with the exception being the Ramones, play every song at the same tempo in the same key.
Okay.
Ramones are a very special
Exception,
situation.
outlier.
But other than that, because magic is not exactly what you think it is. Knowing the secret does not completely blow it up, any more than if you're a big fan of a musician and you see the entire chart, every note that's played, they lay out what was on each of the, of the 32 tracks. I guess that shows how old-fashioned I am. What's on each of the tracks, it doesn't destroy the work of art. We do a show called Fool Us, and we see, as we will see next week, we'll see about 100 magicians, one after the other, and we know, that is the principle of the game show we're doing, we know how the tricks are done, and yet we still get that feeling of wonder. We do a thing in our show now where we explain how to do a French drop, right in the same show where we do a trick using that. And it's remarkable because what you are targeting is the intellectual level, but also a visceral level as well. And those two, what gives you the entertainment is those two fighting. Because even without us explaining the secret to you, you do know it's a secret. You do know it's a trick. You do know we're not actually bending the rules of reality. So it's that fight between the visceral and the intellectual that I would argue make all entertainment interesting, but especially magic.
Even when we tell the truth, we often very visibly lie. There are no 7 principles of magic. We made those up. They happen to coincide with some of the real ones, but we thought 7 was a kind of good number.
What I find so confusing about people's panic over deep fakes is we had this very short time in human history, maybe kind of sort of 150 years, maybe even 100, where there was some sort of evidence that you could get electronically or chemically. You could get photographs, you could get audio recordings, you could get video that were in some way believable. But that's a small chunk. I mean, at the time of the founding of the United States, anybody could print anything. And it was automatically a deep fake. You could say Thomas Jefferson said the means of production should be held by the workers. You could put that in quotation marks and say he said this in front of 1,000 people. And the audience was very able to say, do we believe the person who put that in quotations? Do we believe the people that printed this? And we functioned very well with that. We functioned very well with paintings that people would say, is that painting an actual representation of the king? No, they probably dolled it up a little bit. They were able to do that. And I think I actually welcome the deep fakes and so on, because that allows people to give up on this idea that electronic or chemical reproductions of reality are never a match for trust and honesty. And I'm afraid that even with words like fake news being thrown around, and with people, as they say in every shock editorial, choosing their own realities, I have a great deal of comfort in my belief that the solution to bad speech is more speech, and that this is a weird time. For a million years, our biggest problem was too little information. Now we've got 2 decades where we're starting to have the problem being too much information. A person 400 years ago in their entire life would have gotten the amount of information in 1 issue of the New York Times. Now we get all that information all the time, and learning to deal with that in a way that is wise is going to take us a little while, and that shouldn't be a surprise.
One of the great benefits to seeing a magic performance is that when you walk in, the person who's performing has said, I am about to lie to you. which is more than you get out of most liars.
That is true. That's true. Highly unusual.
And so you sit there and you watch what you know to be a lie and look for the lie. And I think, I think one of the things that makes magic sort of perennial is that has always been something that we've really worried about. People lying is a very big deal. And when somebody lies and we're just celebrating it, right? We're just enjoying the fact that the guy's lying to you or the woman's lying to you. It has a sort of refreshing kind of therapeutic quality.
Nothing we did this afternoon was technology that didn't exist hundreds of years ago. We used nothing technological. And it's interesting that where we live, in our shows, we are much more successful fooling people with technology that's existed for hundreds of years than the newest stuff, because people are so thinking about the newest stuff, and the old stuff is, as Teller said, in a different sense, perennial.
Everything that we used in the password trick was developed in the mid to late 19th century to fool people who were coming to spirit mediums. They would write down messages for their dead relatives, and then the medium would somehow divine what that is from the vast beyond. But it's all just, it's many of the same principles we mentioned in our Lying Seven Principles.
And instead of using the magic cause being an afterlife, our magic cause is the paranoia of surveillance that we all experience now. You always have to have a cause for the magic.